Both types of sports with Schoode and Tor. Football discussion on the internet.
I like to try to match the pitch of our intro song, Tor. Oh boy, I fucking you popped you big time right before we started, huh?
You can't tell me skinny. You just can't give me any skinny before we're talking football, because now it's the only thing I don't want to talk is football.
The old wind up with this and a little boop, a little boop. You weren't expecting all that, now were you?
No, I was not.
I've had so many bombshells dropped on me the past 24 hours. We'll get you caught up. Oh, look at this. Phil Ripa, Kelly's cousin, I'm sure, became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Phil. You have now access to the back catalog, my friend. Enjoy. Welcome, everybody, to both types of sports with Schoode and Tor. Football discussion on the internet. That's what they...
Both types of sports with Schoode and Tor. Football discussion on the internet.
He really holds that note at the end there. I'm so jealous of that voice of Dan the Drywall Man. How are you, Tor? I know we're big Tennessee Vols fans, counting down the days, so we're on Rocky Top, sitting with the Big Red Machine, fucking watching Alabama and the Vols square off. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm doing great. I mean, Sunday, it was just like, I just felt privileged to have the eyesight and fandom and to be a fan of football, to have the opportunity to enjoy the Sunday night game, to enjoy the afternoon slots, to enjoy seeing Washington's defensive woes continue and surge, and watch Baker Mayfield look like Baker Mayfield Heisman winner at Oklahoma. Is stunning from him.
I think calling them defensive woes is actually being far too kind, because I don't know that holding out a red cape and then shouting out Olay as whomever is carrying the ball that's wearing crimson just waltzes into the end zone. I mean, all that Jaden Daniels hype aside, it's like that defense was non-existent. I mean, they couldn't stop, and they got some nice weapons on Tampa. I don't want to say they're bereft of the ability to make big plays, but they're not the greatest show on turf. And there was no evidence that the artist formerly known as the Redskins had any interest. And the other part about it, Tor, which I don't know how you can. I've heard a lot of people saying, "Well, Jaden was running the ball around, and we can see he can make plays." They were down 3.5 scores, 4 scores, and he's putting his head down, having his helmet knocked off, then sticking his head into the scrum. He's not going to last a season if that's the way that he's still playing the game.
He has to be much more judicious with his running, even though he did make good plays, and a lot of the times where he scrambled, I thought it might be the right decision. But the Tampa offensive line, Graham Barton and Cody Mock and Tristan Wirfs, they're a problem. And for Washington, if I was a fan, I would be apoplectic. Well, if I was truly number one team, I'd be apoplectic watching Washington go Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Fedarian Mathis, and then go with another defensive tackle drafted this year and watch them get bullied.
They love the draft. Well, it could be worse. You could have played incredible defense and then have your young quarterback go out and yak all over the field. That's what happened to the two-tone blue, unfortunately. Joining us, a gentleman that has covered the Tennessee Titans since 1999. You can read all of his works, TennesseeTitans.com. I've been following him for years now, a bevy of information. J. Wyatt Sports on X. Highly recommend you give him a follow. Mr. Jim Wyatt is with us on both types of sports. Jim, it is an honor and a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for making the time. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
Man, I've been wanting to have you on since we started the show, and appreciate you making the time. I know Mondays after the weekend is a big one during the season. There's lots to start with, lots to get to, but I guess we could start with what a defensive effort to go out there and make Caleb Williams look pedestrian, really win the war, the battle of the trenches, go up in the first half 17-3 by halftime, only to, have some mistakes be the difference in the game. How much more difficult is it to walk off a loss like that than a traditional one where you lose 24-20? We'll get them next time, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think for players, it's gut-wrenching, players and coaches both, and really for the fan base, because they dominated this game. And Brian Callahan even said it in the presser today. He felt like if they'd have punted away on first down, the way the defense was playing, they probably would have won the game, but they couldn't overcome mistakes by Will Levis. Threw a couple of picks, lost the ball when he got hit and fumbled. Made a couple of special teams mistakes. One of them a blocked punt that led to a touchdown. Another was a long return that led to more Bears points. And defensively, the Titans finished the weekend as NFL's number one ranked defense in yards allowed, and they played as a winning effort, but offensively just couldn't build on anything in the second half. Turned the ball over too much. Levis, just some decisions that surprised even his head coach. And instead of being 1-0, you're 0-1 with the Jets coming in here on Sunday.
Talk to me about Levis. He finished 19-32, 127 yards, had the touchdown, but 2 picks, fumble, I think 3 sacks, 52.5 passer rating, the lowest in any game where he's attempted 10+ passes. And look, the athleticism's there after that 4-touchdown performance where he kind of burst onto the scene last year, all like the sky's the limit. I saw a lot of people maybe don't do what you do at your level, but do what you do in following this team for a living, say this is the worst performance we've seen. He actually looks like he's regressed. It's one game, out of 17. People tend to overreact, but he didn't look better under this new coaching administration that's offensive minded. How critical should we be of his performance?
Well, I mean, he's got to be better than that. There's no doubt. Making your 10th start, you just can't make some of those decisions that he made, especially just kind of fling the ball out there to get rid of it and throws right to a Bears guy and, miss some throws. But I also think it's unfair just to bury him after week 1. This is a new offense. He's got a lot of new guys around him. They just couldn't get in any favorable down and distance situations in part because of some penalties and plays that didn't work on first downs. But he shares a good part of the blame. And he said it himself. He thinks it's one of the first games he can ever remember where he felt like he was solely responsible for giving the game away. And so, I mean, he's critical of himself, and he will take criticism until he goes out and plays again and plays better. But I don't know. I think it's too quick to just completely write him off. People here are calling for Mason Rudolph already, and a lot of University of Tennessee fans that didn't like him anyway because he went to Kentucky. So they're coming out of the woodwork once again. So he had a lot to prove when he was drafted here last year, and now he's kind of right back trying to do it again.
Jim, what'd you make of Tony Pollard's first game with Tennessee? He had 16 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Also caught the ball 3 times. I thought he looked fresh after a lackluster season in Dallas. More refreshed running style from Tony Pollard this season, from my perspective.
I thought so too. And I wonder what it looks like moving forward, because it was 16 carries for Tony, and then 4 carries for Tyjae Spears, and I think that'll be closer as far as the division of carries goes moving forward. I think they want Spears to be more involved, but I thought Tony Pollard early on looked great. I mean, there was one play where he nearly broke it for a long run, and then they called the same play again, and he busted it, and he had some juice. And for one reason or another, and I think a good part of the reason is the Bears kind of changed what they did defensively. They kind of held him in check the second half, and he just couldn't have that same success. But I think for the Titans, they had to like what you saw from him. They just they probably should have tried to roll with that even more.
I would think so. The great Jim Wyatt joins us, the venerable Jim Wyatt, TennesseeTitans.com. Follow him on X at JWyattSports. You mentioned the comments from Coach Brian Callahan at the top here, and I saw those. And look, you've heard a lot of coach speak over the time covering sports, as have I. I love it when these guys feel comfortable enough to be honest and be forthcoming. I think in New England, they're enjoying a little bit less clandestine nature from their head coach. But, quote, if we just punted it on 1st and 10 every time, we might have won the game. First of all, he ain't wrong. Secondly, you got a quarterback that you need to be there, and there's pushing the guys and there's treating them like adults. But in the wake of, I just can't stop thinking every time a quarterback is criticized now of what Tua said about Brian Flores. I don't think that's what we're dealing with here, but that had to at least send up a couple of red flags for someone to be that straightforward and that open. A comment like that coming from the new head coach.
Yeah, and I like his honesty. I mean, as you said, you hear a lot of coach speak. And I remember Jeff Fisher and dealing with Steve McNair always was hesitant to be critical of him. You know, Mike Vrabel was kind of the same way. Didn't really call guys out. And you know, I've dealt with every, you know, whether it's from Vrabel to Munchak to Wisenhunt to Malarkey to Vrabel and now Callahan. I don't think we've ever had a coach here that's been so open and honest. And I don't think it was a situation where he was throwing him under the bus as much as he was telling media at today's press conference the same thing he's probably told Will, that you can't afford to make these kind of mistakes. You got to learn from, you got to get better. He said he was surprised at some of the decision making that Will made in that game, and said he even told him at one point early in the game, hey, the way this defense is playing, you know, as long as we don't turn the ball over and make mistakes, we're going to win this game. And then, of course, they made turnovers and they made mistakes and pretty much handed the game over to the Bears. So I think he's frustrated, but I also think he's honest. And I hope people here don't use that against him, because I like an honest head coach that'll just kind of tell you what he's feeling instead of maybe what he wants you to hear.
I love seeing Chigakonkwa get involved in the offense. I like all the new receivers they brought over. I know DeAndre Hopkins is going to be limited because of that injury, but where is your honest opinion on Treylon Burks? And I know it's not his fault where he was drafted or who was traded away and who he was supposed to replace, but like it started off with the issues in camp with the asthma or whatever that was, and then he's had a difficult time staying healthy, and now he's getting snaps because you got other wide receivers that are limited, but the opportunities aren't there. System, effort, maybe an overvalued skill set. I don't know. Where is Burks in his career? And do you see him? I would be satisfied at this point if he's just a productive member of this offense in any capacity. It doesn't look like he's going to become that right now.
Yeah, and I like Treylon Burks. He's a good kid. He's had to deal with a lot. You know, he gets traded, you know, after the team traded away A.J. Brown. They end up, so they get traded. He got picked with the pick that they acquired in that trade, A.J. Brown trade. So he was coming in here in a tough spot. He gets here. He had the asthma, had the conditioning issues that really slowed him down as a rookie last year. He had a knee early when he had a lot of momentum, and then had a concussion late in the season. He just has never really been able to consistently string together long stretches of being out there or playing well. And they have praised him all off season for what he's done and his work ethic and how he's gotten himself in great shape. And there's no question that he's done that because he looks good. But there comes a time where you have to produce and you have to do it. And I'm not saying it's all his fault because he didn't get opportunities yesterday. That he wants the ball to be able to make plays. I'm looking at Treylon Burks on the sheet. He was targeted twice, caught one ball for 2 yards. He was involved in reverse. I mean, you can't beat Treylon Burks up for that. But at some point, he's got to prove it. I mean, they've backed him so much. They've supported him so much. They've heaped praise on him so much. It's time he needs to back up some of that stuff. And again, they got to help him by getting him the football. But I think people, a little less talk and a lot more action there.
Jim, I watched a good amount of this Titans game, and I was watching Big 55, JC Latham, the first-round pick for the Titans this year, kind of thrown to the fire against a very good Bears defensive line and defense in general. What did you make of his debut for the Titans?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what I thought it would be. It wasn't perfect, and certainly missed an assignment on one player, just got beat. That ended up being a costly play for the Titans. When you're a guy who is making the transition from right tackle to left tackle in the league after not playing left for so long, you're going to have growing pains. And I think you saw some of that on Sunday. I mean, you can't just snap your finger and just expect this guy to jump in there and be kind of a brick wall on that side. And I think he'll get better. I've said this about JC Latham before. I mean, he's 21 years old. He's as mature a kid as I've ever seen come in here. He works his butt off. He's regularly out there, the first guy out there. And it means a lot to him to be good. but that doesn't mean you have to be great in week one. And he wasn't perfect by any stretch. So I think he'll get better. I think he's going to be a really good left tackle in this league. I think his personality, just his leadership qualities, exactly what this team needs moving forward. But he'll have to pay his dues, and he'll have to get better on the fly because he's got no choice. I mean, he's a rookie. He's throwing it action on the left side, and all of a sudden, hey, this is your job. Do it, and it's not going to be smooth sailing all the way through.
Jim, I don't know if you got a chance to watch all of it. I know you're covering Tennessee, but the divisional game, Houston, Indianapolis, what a barn burner. Anthony Richardson, 2 touchdowns, rushed for another one. Incredibly physical. CJ Stroud, of course, we know the type of back he is, but Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, these new weapons that they brought in performed unbelievably. It was an exciting game, a shootout. And the great thing is it looks like this Titans defense is going to be stout enough to, go up against some of these high-flying offenses in this division and be physical and give themselves a chance to win. But I don't know, seeing the caliber of play that both of those teams were capable of, it certainly is an eye-opener. Jacksonville against Miami, that was a very weird matchup. And, I think they'll probably play better down the stretch. But where do the Titans right now rank into this division right now that seems to have a couple of really strong teams?
Well, I think the Texans are clearly the favorite. I mean, they've gotten better. They've got a good head coach. They've got momentum coming off of last year. Love their quarterback. I look at them, and I think that's a 13-win team, potentially 13, 14-win team. I think they're going to be one of potentially the best team in the AFC. And Indianapolis, I didn't see a lot of that game, but boy, the Richardson throw on the deep ball was all over my Twitter timeline during the course of that game, and watched it a couple of times. I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete. He got hurt against the Titans last year early in the season, and we didn't see him again. So I didn't really, haven't really had a chance to watch him for very long, but he's going to be good. And the Jags, I think, are a formidable foe. I mean, they probably feel like the Titans do today, that they let one get away after building a lead. So Titans are on an uphill climb. They've gone 7-10 and 6-11 in the past 2 years. They've lost now 19 of the last 25 games. Yes, I think they're going to be better, but they're going to have to be a lot better to compete against some of these teams in the division. And I think that's what's so painful about that game yesterday is that, coming up, you got the Jets and you got the Packers and you go to Miami and then you got the bye. And I always felt like, if you could get to 2-2 with the bye, I would take it and then get better as the season goes on. Now you're in the whole 0-1 with some tough games coming up. You can't afford to fall too far behind because the division's so much better. Those division games, which used to be not gimmies, but the Titans used to feast on some of those games in years past. That's not going to be easy to do anymore.
All right. Last question for you. I know you're busy today. Thank you so much for the time. But if you want to take a look, fantastic profile picture here on Mr. Wyatt's X page, the great Eddie George. You've had the chance to cover some amazing running backs. What did it look like to see Derrick Henry score a touchdown for the Baltimore Ravens? And were you as incredulous as I was that they did exactly what they did in the playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs, went away from the run the second they went down a scoreboard? I know they were there at the end and there was that toe tap scandal, but I was like, good Lord, all this hype, all this hoopla, all this nice contract you gave to the king. How about you give him the football a few more times?
Yeah, and we'll see how that goes as the season plays out too. But I think there'll be like a lot of teams that will sit back and look at how things went in week one and then kind of adjust from there. People here all up in arms about, hey, you went out and got all these receivers and added all these playmakers, and you're not distributing the football. And I think you need more. You need more than just a small sample size to understand what a team's going to be all about. I'm curious myself what will happen with Henry and that offense down there, how they elect to use them. I do know it was weird seeing him with the Ravens. Even though I've been seeing him trot out on the field in that Ravens helmet in a lot of these practice videos throughout training camp. I wish him well. I mean, he's a great guy. Really enjoyed working with him here. I don't know of anybody here that would root against him, but a lot of people here certainly have trouble rooting for the Ravens. So, I think people want him to be happy, want him to have success, but hope it doesn't lead to too much team success.
Yeah, personal success over organizational success, I think, is what we're all pulling for. TennesseeTitans.com, Jay Wyatt Sports on X. Jim, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate the insight.
Okay, appreciate it. Have a good week.
There he is. We will, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. That's the biggest guy doing that out there in Smashville, just so you know, Gigantor.
No love. That was. I think the Derrick Henry question was the right question also, because
What?
it felt weird. It felt weird seeing that dude
Yeah.
in that jersey under the lights. All the training camp photos and the first graphics that are released. Okay, that it's new, but when you actually see the guy trotting on the field, there's a little wow. This is really happening. We really got to this point of the big stallion back there ready to go score some touchdowns.
The big stallion. Are you trying to get a new nickname over for him? You know, he's got a couple already.
Look, King Henry, it's fine with me. It's a fine nickname, but
sorry. Well, who would it rather be? King Robinson, King who? I mean, is there anybody that you think Algier? I don't even know how to say that guy's last name.
We have no nicknames. We have no players deserving of nicknames in Atlanta. Here's our nickname. Starting quarterback Hobbles. That's going to be our nickname.
Hobbles with football.
Yes.
Was Jamal Anderson the Dirty Bird? Was that his nickname, or was that just the dance?
I think he was just forever cemented with the Dirty Bird dance.
Okay.
I'm not certain if he was ever being named the Dirty Bird.
Derrick Henry, by the way, 13 carries, 46 yards, only 3.5 yards, a hookah, and a hookah ho there for the Ravens in game one. Lamar Jackson, as he usually does, led the team in rushing. So we'll have to see how that pays off. All right. Thank you to Jim Wyatt for coming on. We had to get him on right at the top. For those of you watching live, we're going to do the $2 Super Chat Challenge. If you have a $2 Super Chat and you want to talk football, throw it in the goddamn chat. We'll put it up on the screen. Tor and I will get after whatever it is you want to discuss. But there's way too much to get to, including Gigantor, a gigantic game tonight that we were talking about. The Jets travel out west. San Francisco 49ers. Very tumultuous offseason for the 49ers. I guess that you call what is the Jets. They got reports. They've got documentaries being made about their quarterback while he's still playing football. But they had a cohesive offseason. All of their players were there for the most part. You got to see some flashes, even though Aaron Rodgers didn't play in the preseason. Expectations are through the roof, even though Buffalo looked good yesterday. The Dolphins looked good yesterday, despite what was going on there. And the New England Patriots, God bless them, have an identity. You and I talked about this in our halftime show, whatever the fuck we called it on Sunday. But that looks like it's going to be a division, at least for the first part of the season, filled up with teams that are going to go out there and compete week after week. The Jets need to go out and win week one.
Yeah, it's not going to be any gimmies. And if you're a team that missed the playoffs last year, or if you're a team that has ups and downs, I cannot stand the attitude of thinking that you have the privilege to hover around 500 for the first half of the season if you really want to be in the hunt. I hate that up and down. It feels non-committal, either be bad or good quickly and then go on your tear. But that hover up and down, maybe that's what the Jets are going to be resigned to, because that division will be better. And starting off with San Francisco is tough. Starting off the class of the NFC is very difficult, and especially how they just retain their talent through all the means that they used. They kept Ayuk. They have Trent Williams back. They have Christian McCaffrey, who I'm sure goes for 2 touchdowns. It's going to be a fun one. I know I really think we might be in for a treat tonight.
Imagine you're the Cincinnati Bengals and you're the team that has the quarterback that the only one that can flex nuts about being able to beat Patrick Mahomes and going out there and turning in the performance they did. God forbid Jamar Chase decided he didn't want to play in that game, Tor. Nobody else is going to catch the football. They're dropping passes left and right, turning it over. And I hate it when the story is about the better team losing instead of the other team winning, which it always was for Washington anytime they beat Dallas when I was covering them. But if you think you're a Super Bowl caliber team and you're at home against New England, the Jacoby Brissett-led New England Patriots, no disrespect, that are clearly in a rebuild. They have acknowledged that, and you can only muster 10 points. I mean, fine. Maybe in 6 and 7 weeks, we don't care about that. We look back on it as a black eye. But Tor, Joe Burrow, I believe, is 1-8 in his first 2 weeks of the season throughout his career. 1-8. That goes to coaching, that goes to system, that goes to execution, ownership, the way they go about their business, walking across a fucking crowded street with cement mixers to get to your fucking practice bubble. It goes to everything bad about the Cincinnati Bengals, the fact that they just do not feel like they're interested in performing the first couple of weeks of the year.
And I think fans and teams are so disassociated between wins that matter and losses that count. You can't read too much into the first month. Sure, the teams are still getting fleshed out. They're still building. They're still finding their rhythm. But that doesn't mean that you can just take the month off. It doesn't mean that one win every year we see it, and we act like week one doesn't matter. Every year we see some teams begging to get into the playoffs, and we look back, how did they drop that game in week 2? How did they lose to that team? How is this possible that they're still in the hunt? Oh, this team is so much better. If they had just had some of those early season wins, every game matters. That's the beauty of this of the NFL. There's a limited amount. We don't have 82 games in basketball. There's not 162 in baseball. It is just 17. Every game you have to win. You have to win every game. If you don't, then you have to at least look respectable and be a team that doesn't. It's not a shock when you win the next week.
Did you watch did you watch tape to tape Rams Lions last night?
Every minute.
So the example that I wanted to give is the Lions, they had a problem on defense last year. And they saw that, and they played the Rams, and that was a tight game. And I think a lot of people thought that Detroit would have put up a better fight against the Kansas City Chiefs were they to make it to the Super Bowl ultimately than what the San Francisco 49ers did. What I saw last night, Tor, first of all, they addressed it in the draft. They improved their defense. If you look at the box score for that game, you'll see the fact that Matt Stafford went out there and he went for 317. The Cooper Kupp got 100 yards and a touchdown. It was hard-earned and it was hard-fought. The Lions have improved on defense. And when it came down to brass tacks, that final drive, they got the ball and they said, everyone thinks Jim Harbaugh was going to go for 2 after Isaiah Likely. Everybody wants to think that's ballsy. No. What's ballsy is stepping on a team's throat when given the opportunity. And the Lions went straight down the field, running the football, pounding it up the Rams' ass time and time again with David Montgomery, scored the touchdown, said, you're not even getting a shot at this, and walked off the field. It seemed to embody them understanding that at where they were, they need to be better, and they improved on those things. Humongous. It's the opposite of what I saw out of the Cincinnati Bengals against New England.
The final drive for the Lions was a work of art. It was a masterpiece. Awesome. It was just, I'm putting an end to it. I'm saying right F in here, it ends, and you're not going to do anything about it. It was awesome. And you see Cooper Kupp's stat line, 14 catches, 110 yards. That's great. You must think he must have gone off. He had some big plays. Yeah. A lot of it was working the flats, shallow crossing routes. Maybe something can happen after the catch. The Lions defense was better. Getting the red zone interception was fantastic off of Stafford. I think they noted that the Rams didn't have a red zone turnover all year last season. What a play as the Rams are trying to make it even at the half or closer at the half. Sure. I can't exactly remember. You come away holding them to no points. It's completely different than the porous Lions defense that we saw last season.
So I got this. It's interesting that you brought that up. So this is the play you're talking about, I assume, where it's a pick in the back of the end zone. Did you see what Warren Sharp tweeted about this play?
Was he talking about the camouflage on this play with the end zone and the back padding?
It's interesting that you say that, because this is what Sharp tweeted out. He didn't see him because his uniform is camouflaged with the end zone and the back wall padding. I look at the 43,000 likes on this tweet, by the way. 43,000 likes on this tweet. Tor, is that home cooking? Is that home field advantage, or is that something? Because if you look at it, it's a great point. The jerseys, they're wearing the solid color on the solid color. The back wall. If you're Matt Stafford, I absolutely could see that being something that affected his ability to make that read. Is that just part of home field advantage, or is that something that needs to be looked at?
I think that if Al Davis could have put his team on the field with the entire color matching the turf, he would have. So I like this. This is, hey, you know what? We'll go out in the Honolulu blues. Oh, our end zone's blue? I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice the back. Don't ever own up to it. If you want to use that as your superpower, use it. I almost don't like it getting run because, I don't even want to hear, meetings are being had that you can't have the color on color and your color has to be different than I just know it's going to lead to some meetings because Warren Sharp had a big tweet, which is going to frustrate me. But if that plays into it, let it play into it. I thought it was very fun.
I kind of like the gamesmanship. And the first time I became aware of this is, do you remember, I think there was the Dallas Cowboys, their home jerseys were white. And I know Washington's were too, and I think the Dolphins did something similar where they would wear white at home. And I couldn't figure out why that was. And then someone explained it to me. It's like, it's hot as shit. They make their opponents go out there in the dark jerseys, which are going to attract more of the heat. It's the same way as we're going to have the opponents sit on the side of the field where the sun's
coming down. Yeah.
I feel like that's gamesmanship. That's like some old school. I got a little spitball going here. I got a little rosin on the inside of my fucking cuff. Like, I don't mind that shit. Like, the anabolic steroids are different, or stealing signals, or any of this other bullshit, Deflate Gate and fucking Spygate. But if guys are just doing some of that old school chicanery, skullduggery, I actually think that's a fun part of the game. I'm glad to see the Lions doing some of that shit.
I enjoy it. I enjoy stories about opposing teams' locker rooms being bad. You go in, it's a hostile environment. Make it hostile. It's football, and it's getting child-proofed, and all the corners have to have a little bubble on it. No. I want there to be a little bit of, you're walking into this building, you don't know what's going to happen when you walk out on that field, and you're not going to be comfortable sitting here waiting before the beatdown.
All right, hit the like button, you cowards. Thank you to Jim Wyatt for coming on the program earlier from Nashville. I did want to, this is less of a Titans topic, Tor, it is more of a football topic, but I loved this quote. We asked him about it. If we had just punted it on 1st and 10 every time, we might have won the game. Now, Will Levis played like dog shit in that game, but he doesn't strike me as a soft Bama, which some of these guys are. I think Tua is a soft Bama, despite the fact that he's going to throw for 5,000 yards this season. But if you're up 17-3, and your defense doesn't give up a single touchdown to Caleb Williams and DJ Moore and all these fucking Roma Dunze, who's injured, I believe now, all these guys, there should be no excuse as far as a loss goes. I got no problem with the coach saying this because I think it's damn entertaining. Are you at all worried that maybe there's just some stuff you keep close to the vest because there's no reason to put that out into the world for people like you and me to debate the next day?
If you're trying to build a new culture and your culture is intensity and winning, say that. I have no problem with it. I don't mind Will Levis now at this point in the season saying that was a bonehead play. The pick six was bonehead. That right at this point, you can get by. I liked when even when dummy who was on the Jets, Zach Wilson was taking accountability eventually in his second year. Like, yeah, I just got to get better. They're getting open. They're doing what they need to do. Eventually that story wears old, and you're just the rubber meets the road. You make the decision, either you can or you can't play quarterback starting on this team anymore. But at this moment, I'm not worried as a Titans fan. The Bears had all the momentum in the offseason. They had all the momentum in the preseason. Week 1, who was more excited to be playing at home? Name a fan base that was more juiced up to see their team walk out of that stadium, out of that tunnel for the first time. So for all that was happening in Chicago, to go in and have it be that close, a gutting loss is a gutting loss. Like, no one's ever going to be happy about it. But I'm not worried, I would say.
When you and I were having our discussion last week about how dreamy David Carr was, I thought that, well, mostly that was coming from me, but that we hadn't had a quarterback drafted #1 overall win his season opener since David Carr in 2022. It's kind of an interesting stat. They win, but the Bears score off of a block punt, an interception return. There was a strip sack, and you look at what Caleb Williams actually did: 93 yards, 14 of 29. People were wringing their hands about this because the media had decided that he was Pat Mahomes already. I don't recall him deciding that he was Pat Mahomes already, but Tor, I think this sets up perfectly for the Bears because they've got a defense that can single-handedly win them games. And that was a game they should have lost, and their offense was doing nothing to help. And the defense said, fuck that. We're better. We're going to beat up this quarterback. We're going to score points on our own. And then when you guys are comfortable, when you guys are clicking, when this rookie quarterback does feel like the game is slowing down, can you imagine when Caleb Williams has got 8 fucking games under his belt and the speed of the game makes more sense to him, and that defense is playing the way that it did against Tennessee, how good the Bears could potentially be? I don't have any type of concern if I'm a Chicago fan that the rookie quarterback started a little bit slow and you got the win.
I don't weigh defensive success on how the defense does against other great quarterbacks and teams as much as I do. Can my defense completely shut down a bottom 16 quarterback in the league? Can they take advantage of the guys that are not in the top half of quarterbacking? And the Bears have a defense that can do that, and that wins games because eventually that margin through the season, because of injuries and just offensive weirdness, the gap widens and there becomes more quarterbacks that are deserving of being in the bottom 16 than there are in the top 16. At the end of the year, it's about we normally have about 8 to 10 guys that we'd say, I want that guy leading my team. I'm comfortable and cool with my quarterback being there. So having a defense like Chicago's that's energized and flies around, that's a good thing for Caleb Williams because I don't know how much they're going to rely on DeAndre Swift, to be honest. He had a fine year in Philadelphia, but bouncing around like that this much in this many in 5 years of being in the NFL is a bit concerning for a running back that's supposed to be your premier guy. So if Caleb is leaning on that defense a little more, I think that would be the smarter play for Chicago.
I'm not setting you up with a trick question here, but what in your mind was the biggest story that you saw people spending the most time on today? And, late last evening as well when the coverage of week 1 started, because for me, it's an easy call. Deshaun Watson is getting murdered by everybody. I mean, and it's kind of now all of the excuses for the I'm rehabbing an injury or I'm overcoming this. We're now dealing with the reality that Kevin Stefanski's offense has looked better under Jacoby Brissett and Joe Flacco. Like, I don't think anybody would debate that. And we're looking at a team that's still got Jerome Ford. I don't know when Nick Chubb's going to be able to play, but they have some backs. I'm just curious, Tor. They get completely waxed by it. Just signed their quarterback, that just signed their wide receiver that had been mired in controversy all off. We're going to go all in. And Jerry Jones dropping F-bombs and all these weird ass fucking press conferences. I mean, the Cowboys felt like they were off the rails to me. And by the way, they feel like they're understaffed. Ezekiel Elliott, I guess it's 2015. What the fuck is going on with it? If I'm the Browns and I look at that game film, Tor, I think I look at what the Patriots did. And I said, we don't have a quarterback that can go out there and win us games, but we got a good defense and we can run the football. Let's go out there and just really overemphasize physicality and tone and time of possession, all this old school horse shit that doesn't sell tickets, because it is clear to me they do not trust Deshaun Watson to lead them back with this offense in any way, shape, or form.
I would have said the bigger story, the bigger stories that should have been covered more were the Chargers win, the Puka Nacua injury, and what's going on with Stafford's ankle. But nothing took at least Twitter by storm more than Deshaun Watson going out in week 1 and looking like a dog that's on its last days. He does not look happy, confident, poised. He looks slower when he's scrambling. He doesn't look like he has any juice. His form looks off. It's over. He's just the 2 years off did him no favors. Start Jameis next week. Have Jameis Winston be your starter. You're going to have some Winston moments. You're going to have some interceptions and weirdness that makes you scratch your head. But there's no doubt in my mind that the Browns would win more games with Jameis Winston starting than with Deshaun Watson starting for the rest of the year.
Okay, and I pulled this up because I think everybody knows the numbers, but $230 million over 5 years. They're paying him $46 million guaranteed this year. And I think that you and I had the conversation on this show when the Broncos decided, hey, we've just got to get out from underneath Russell Wilson. We'll figure it out. We'll eat the money. We'll let the Steelers pay him to have some nebulous nagging ankle injury that keeps him out of week 1. And I think you and I had the conversation of why don't the Browns just do this? But Tor, it's an enormous fuck all amount of money. And Jameis Winston, as much as I like, he's entertaining and I like he's got the laser rocket arm and he kind of plays like a gunslinging cowboy out there. Like you never know what you expect. You got to be sure that the team, there's a lot of veterans on that team. They know that he gives them a much better chance to win because all the other metrics, the entire narrative flips to the failure of this deal. You've acknowledged it. You've given it because they've done a great job so far of towing the line and giving the coach speak. And you would pull the plug after week 1 if this was Coach Tor. You're going out there and Jameis gets the call because you got to run that by management. That's got to happen.
Immediately. Look, we blew it. We blew it. We blew it signing this guy. This is my pitch. We messed up, but we have the team. That's my pitch. We have the team that can compete in the AFC. We have the defense. The defense, the Cowboys offense was good, but there was no balance in that game. They get tired quicker, and then they ended up getting gutted, and they got dealt a bunch of short fields due to the constant turnovers, the picks, the batted balls, the fumbles. It was a mess. It was an abject mess on offense from Cleveland. Yeah. And I think it's a city that has waited so long to have a team built like this, to build this well top to bottom. And then the only problem I'm looking at this offense with is the top, the one guy. And if I have a guy that I think can do half as better, I would need to see it. I need to see if he goes out and plays at least worse than Deshaun Watson.
Josh Kim, member for 2 months. Thank you, Josh Kim. Bring in Jameis. Let the Browns eat some W's. It's so disgusting. Who the fuck I think it was it Sean Merriman who was on X eating his fingers? I want that to go away. It's so gross. Yeah. It's too much saliva. After spending a weekend with Dave Testa, I want less fingers into dudes' mouths. Spider Clamp, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Love the show, fellas. $450. Get all the games through one provider. Pure identity. How do you feel about needing 5 apps to see them? First of all, 5 apps. Tor, do we have 5 apps? I'm fucking starving in here. Jesus Christ. I go for some extreme fajitas or pizza shooters. It's the worst. I swear to God, this is the worst kitchen in radio.
I had 5 apps for dinner last night because
did you really?
I couldn't treat myself to my nice wings, wings combo. The Falcons put me in such a bad mood that I ate Hot Pockets and TGI Fridays boneless wings, and I think a couple bowls of ramen. So I just had a sad meal.
That is a fucking sad bachelor's fucking dinner, isn't it?
It sucked. I was drinking chiladas in my bed alone. It was a day.
What happened to you yesterday?
We lost to a kicker.
The Falcons scored 10 points. I think that's probably what it was. Kirk Cousins went out there looking like Old Man River trying to play football. Oh, by the way, he's got about one more of those performances left into him until the Penix fucking crowd. It's probably already there.
It's Falcons Twitter is melting down.
Is it really?
Well, yeah.
When they drafted him there, you knew that's what was going to fucking happen. That Kirk had to come out with his hair on fire.
It's a mess.
Rehabbing an injury a year. Like, he's going to need some time to ramp back up. They got to calm down. Clamp, this is an old man's beef. No disrespect. I didn't have trouble finding the games. I already have Amazon Prime. I already have Peacock, so it's not that big of a deal to me. If I'm going to pay for the Sunday ticket and they're going to jack the price up to Kingdom Come, I would like to not have to. I just would like everything to be there. Thursday night football, Monday night football, Sunday night football, the early games, but I don't know. The NFL is expensive, man. They print money. I think it's just we got to dance with the devil in the pale moonlight.
My biggest concern is the people that go out in public and watch the games. Like Friday night, we had to abandon a bar for that Philly Green Bay game because they didn't have Peacock. Oh, you don't have Peacock? Oh, great. We're offering, hey, I'll let you get my login. You log me in on your TV.
No shit.
We had to abandon it. And if it was just on NFL Network or CBS, Fox, ESPN, NBC, then maybe we would have more accessibility.
Wait a minute. Was it a sports bar?
It was a bar with at least 4 TVs in it.
Here's what I'm telling you. There should be no excuse when the football season rolls around. There was games on Peacock last year. Like, you got to have the ability to have the football. All you have to do is run a Google search the day before and figure it out and download it on 2 of the smart TVs in your bar. At least I assume that's all you got to do.
We were also dueling with a different bar, a tennis crowd, which was because the U.S. Open was happening. And they put the NFL game on a tiny TV in the corner.
What?
And 3/4 of the bar was just looking and peering at this bar, just pleading with the manager to put it on a big one, begging them to do it. Eventually, we peer pressured, but I'm done. I watch TVs. I watch the game from home now, from here on out. I can't, I'm not doing it in public.
No, if you didn't watch the tennis game, though, the problem, if you didn't watch that tour, like you should have invested some time in watching the tennis tournament, because then you would have seen Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce there, and you would have seen them performing I Believe in a Thing Called Love. I don't know if you were aware of it. Everyone was very excited. How much attention do these two need? Like, how much attention is there enough attention in the world to satiate these two nudniks? I'm sure they don't know they're on camera. By the way, I've never identified with Brittany Mahomes a day in my life. Look at her. She wants to get the fuck out of there. These two have made me like Brittany Mahomes. I never thought I would say that into a microphone. Ugh.
It's just, it's bigger. It's big. I don't know how it got bigger. We let it get bigger.
Look at that hat. Look at that hat. We get it. We get it. You have an ironic mustache. You're dressed like you're 100 years old. You have a stupid hat on. You two are the most famous couple living on the planet. You can't just sit and watch a tennis tournament. Oh, my God. Call an Uber.
I just can't. I can't imagine. Whatever the money is, I don't know what I would do for that money. I would maybe walk in the city butt naked and just let everyone take photos of the disappointment. But it's ridiculous. I'm getting beaten over the back of my head with this. I don't follow any pages that post this.
Tor, any drug addict that was as addicted to their drug as those two are addicted to attention would have OD'd in a week's time. I mean, if you were as addicted to food as they are addicted to having attention, you'd be the guy in Seven that his face, his side of gets kicked and he explodes. I mean, they're the famous people on earth. Every day there's a trending topic about them, and it's never enough. It's never, they're dressing up in costumes, they're showing up at different places. And there's no one that can have a moment's worth of attention without them trying to suck all of it away. It just drives me fucking nuts.
And that sucks so much because it's making me dislike Jason Kelce now, who was a hero.
I dislike Jason Kelce.
He was a guy. I watched his film in college. It was a guy that I resonated with, and now I just can't. I'm over the whole situation.
He does have a very funny Buffalo Wild Wings commercial where he's sitting with the big buffalo with the wings, and he goes, the buffalo says to him, "It's almost like your brother doesn't have time for you anymore." And Jason Kelce goes, "Yeah, I guess he doesn't." He goes like, "Right. Maybe he would have been in this commercial if he did." It's just the giant buffalo with the wings. I got to say, it's not the worst. Bobby Double L, $2 super chat. Tor's making New Jersey sound awesome. Hey, he loves it up there. He's fucking Tor Gandolfini. We know that about him right now.
That's a new
He's
one.
got the Taylor ham and eggs. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. That's Tor. That's the dude up there. America's team. Fuck me. He's in a goddamn. You know he was in a pho bar, Bobby Double L, screaming, "Why don't you have the Peacock Network?" You know that was the case.
Oh, I had a big steak sandwich that night. It was great. Just filth.
I made a turkey breast in the roasting pan, and so I've been making turkey sandwiches with Munster. I got Munster cheese, and I got a very spicy mustard. And my wife walked down. It was this thick, Tor. It had to be 4 inches.
Like a Scooby-Doo sandwich.
And I'm like, it's turkey. It's not that bad for you. She goes, you can't eat 6 pounds of it on one. I got the rosemary bread. I'm fucking hamming it up down here. You have no idea what I'm up to. You would freak if you saw what I'm up to. Bobby Double L, thank you for the super chat. Hit the like button, you cowards. Dak Prescott, by the way, Tor, 19 of 32, $179, and a touchdown. Zeke averaged over 4 yards a carry. CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches for 61, including the one that went viral where Deshaun Watson threw the ball 10 yards over his receiver's head, and CeeDee Lamb caught on the sideline. I tell you what was the most telling thing for me, though, Tor, is Brandon Cooks had a touchdown. He had a couple of big catches. If that guy can be, we always know he's the potential. He's a burner, but he's always been underwhelming. If he can step up as a viable second target for Dak in that offense, it'll work. But the defense is until they figure out that you need to run the ball and keep that defense on the balls of its feet, it's just going to feast on lesser quarterbacks in this league.
Yeah, I was surprised that the Browns didn't go with more of a Green Bay approach to how they won that playoff game. That's beat up on the interior. That's where Dallas is the weakest. Trying to run it again on the edge, not going to happen. They have the fastest linebackers in football, the best edge defender in football. Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, we can have the debate later, but just a complete dynamic player. I'm actually getting sick of how good they're talking about maybe putting him at safety because he's so athletic and freaky. Do it then, McCarthy. Stop just making clickbait statements, trying to sell how good he is. We know how good he is. Talk about why he's so good at getting to the quarterback.
Here's a little, I don't know if this is breaking news. Let's see. It was published at 4:02 as we are recording this. It is 4:17. So it's breaking enough. Deshaun Watson apparently has been charged with another case. He has another rap, sexual assault and battery. On Monday, Watson was sued in Houston for sexual assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The accusations are strikingly similar to those made 2021. However, the plaintiff in the new case, who filed under Jane Doe's pseudonym, contends she went on a date with Watson. Most, if not of all the other cases, arose from paid massages Watson had arranged. It was set in 2020. He called her and began aggressively yelling and screaming and stating that he could not find her apartment. And he doesn't have time for this. What the fuck does that mean? Tension, robust, angry. I don't know. Here's the problem, Tor. I'm not saying that any of this isn't valid or that he's not a monster, but it does seem to me like when guys like this start stroking the checks, there are people that go out and just go through the Rolodex of everybody that went on a date and said, "Hey, did anything happen?" I'd have to read all of that, but Jesus Christ, if they're looking for an excuse or if they're looking for a reason to avoid that, because he's got to have some sort of morals clause in that contract where they can get out of some of this, I would assume. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. If it's, let's say, from 2020 is what that said.
That's always a stickier wicket than most casuals can really dive into.
Yeah,
because it's just okay. What really happened? What's being reported to have happened? How does this impact if it's just
Look,
gets yeah?
It's the legal process is what it is. I tend to say we cover it from a football standpoint, and like, is this an opportunity for them to make the move that you were talking about? This says Puka Nacua is week to week as well, and Lamar Jackson sat out of practice today. Look, I know it's not popular to say, but when we were talking about Jaden Daniels earlier, Lamar Jackson is not smart about the way he runs. I'm sorry. He lowers his head. He initiates contact. He goes up and tries to hit linebackers. And maybe you could say he's proven that he can stick through it and he can go out there and he can make it happen. But it's a numbers game. Contact in the NFL, it's a matter of, it's not if, it's when. You know that, Tor. And the more your quarterback decides in time against the Buccaneers on the road to get his helmet ripped off on the goal line and tuck his head and get bent into three different sections like Jaden Daniels did against the Buccaneers, that their tab that comes with that.
No, I saw even in the Bills game, Josh Allen was getting criticism from the booth for taking a hit he didn't need to. He wasn't going to get the first down.
Sure.
They were going to go for a field goal anyway. He could have just thrown it out of bounds, saved some time, but he takes a hit and he got criticized for it, as he should. He's a franchise quarterback. Be smarter with your body, because it's a tried and true statement. You never know when your last play could be. There's so many NFL veterans that said, "Yeah, it just changed and I couldn't get back on the team. Sure. I didn't know it could happen on any play." So trying to limit it the best you can is important.
I wanted to give a verbal nod to the Houston Texans. Not that that's not easy to do, but Tor, there was something's happened with Stephon Diggs where people don't like him. And I wouldn't go as far as to call it a smear campaign, but there are people that came on this show and said the Bills are better off without Stephon Diggs. And, I don't know, how are the Texans going to get him touches because they've got all these other wide receivers. You bring in Stephon Diggs if Stephon Diggs wants to play for you. And on top of that, they pick up Joe Mixon in exchange for a 7th-round pick for the Bengals, a 7th-round pick. And while Derrick Henry got all, and the Saquon Barkley, and deservedly so, got all the coverage, all he did, 159 yards in that win over Indianapolis. He hadn't gained that many yards in a game since 2021. I mean, that he looks like both of their acquisitions this offseason paying huge dividends early in what ended up being a huge divisional matchup in week 1 for Houston.
Yeah, with Indianapolis showing up and Anthony Richardson playing like he has never played before in the NFL with the big arm and showing what he can really do and looking like a quarterback that can give problems to the Texans. The Texans just kind of manned up and said, Joe Mixon, be the boring running back. He doesn't get the love because he's had some off the field stuff. And then additionally, he doesn't run in a very exciting fashion. There's a lot of times where Joe Mixon falls forward for 2 yards, falls forward for 3 yards, gets clogged up. But then if he gets the corner, he goes for 15 and then he strings off another 10. If he starts getting hot, you can't stop the guy. So having that in Houston is an upgrade. And I'm sure Cincinnati will be just fine with Zach Moss and Chase Brown in the backfield. And Chase Brown's a fine running back. He was good at Illinois, but he's not Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon was a legit piece of that Cincinnati offense, which looks disjointed without T. Higgins on it, looks disjointed without Mixon on it. I know it's still Cincinnati in September, but Houston looks like they got richer because some of these teams just wanted to move on or decided that we can't make it work with you here. I'm sure you can't. I'm certain that you think it's all football. It's not political. He doesn't rub you the wrong way somehow. It's ridiculous.
I know that it's the Raiders, and I know Justin Herbert's got the plantar fasciitis, and I know that, they got their lad McConkey led them in receiving with 39 yards. But would you bet one toenail? I mean, would you bet 30 cents that the Chargers aren't going to make the playoffs in Harbaugh's first year with J.K. Dobbins going for 10 carries, $135, that monster? Is there any chance at all they don't sweep the Broncos? They don't sweep the Raiders? They don't take one from the Chiefs? I mean, they're going to win 10 games. It just matters if, Herbert can find some chemistry with these receivers. They're going to smash the football down people's throats, and they're going to the playoffs his first season as the head coach of that team.
I watched that full Harbaugh in the locker room speech after the game, and I was ripping my hair out thinking, I can't believe they stuck with Brandon Staley for so long. I'm like, this is energy. This is something that the Chargers haven't had. This is a guy that believes in not in just himself, but the team. He's a football guy. Staley is a me guy, and he didn't work, and he sucked. And now we have Harbaugh pumping his fist in a win against a bad Raiders team. And Antonio Pierce looked pissed the whole game, as he should.
Yeah.
They should have done way better. Minshew, the Minshew ride, I'm over already.
If they had Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or I don't know, what were the other? Weren't they like part of some sort of conspiracy in the draft to put together some crazy pack? Jane Daniels too, like a bunch of things that could have happened. But what are you going to do with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell? Like, what are you going to? I mean,
how far can you actually go with them? Yeah, it's an unrealistic expectation for the Raiders to do anything this year. Even though I love Antonio Pierce, I do. I think he's a really good coach. But the Chargers they bossed up. The offensive line that they drafted stood up really well. Slater had a great game at left tackle. Alt's first game against Max Crosby, he was strong. Max Crosby, all-pro guy. He was great. Now, the Chargers are going to be a boring problem for the league to have to solve and figure out. I think J.K. Dobbins, where the hell did he come from? Crucial injuries. I'm mind-boggled watching him break it long. Yeah, he got tracked down. I don't care. I don't need burners on this Chargers team. I need guys that are going to put their heads down and run straight, and they have those guys.
You need to be able to. You need to do what New England needs to do. What I think Cleveland needs to get back to is somewhere late in the third quarter. You need to break the back of the team you're playing because they're just too tired, and they're tired of fucking you picking up 3rd and 3s, and they're tired of you being able to convert. And they just get arm tackles left and right, and then you win the game, and you put your neck on your foot on their neck. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, by the way, combined for 2.5 sacks in that game as well. You know they're going to get after the quarterback. I felt bad for this meme tour. I guess it's not even a meme. I thought this was a fake. I thought this was fake news, but I guess it's not. Did you see this stat about Daniel Jones that was circulating around today?
I did.
You did? I thought that somebody on football Twitter had photoshopped something up, but I guess it's true. Daniel Jones has thrown more pick sixes than touchdown passes since his signing of the $160 million extension with the Giants. It's not, again, when or if they all get fired, when does the coach, the general man. When do they bench the quarterback? When does all of this go down? I don't know which coordinator is going to step in and be the interim. I feel so bad for Coach Rabinski, as Deion Sanders mispronounced. I think this happens by I'll say week 7, Tor. They blow the whole thing up in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, week 7 feels about right.
Yeah.
This is a team that pulled legend Eli Manning out of his consecutive starts streak in a nothing season in a nothing game to put Geno Smith in. They're capable of being harsh to the quarterback. They're capable of making the tough decision. But now they're sticking with this loser. This guy just making rookie mistakes. He hasn't shown improvement. I see what he can do with his legs. I know he's got good burst. It's not working. It's over. And I continue to give props to Pittsburgh from moving on from Kenny Pickett. I continue to applaud them from saying, look, it's just not going to work for you here, pal. It's not working for us. We're gonna hope that you can find greener pastures somewhere else. The Giants just keep on digging deeper into that hole.
Tor, could Mike Tomlin get 9 wins out of Daniel Jones?
Yes.
Then what are we talking about? Then it's not just Daniel Jones. It's organizational failure from top to bottom and bad decision making and bad talent management. Look, I'm with you. I don't give him the original contract they did where we won a playoff game. It's like, okay, but we've all watched football before, right? We're not just an alien hovering over the planet saying, well, that team won a playoff game, they must be good. No. We're able to assess what's going on in the field. The same week that Saquon Barkley, who you told thanks but no thanks, scores 3 touchdowns in Rio for your fucking divisional opponent, your quarterback is throwing back-breaking pick sixes, which is the most. And by the way, walking every Giants fan in the place. I don't know if you saw the videos of those, Tor. Everyone just leaving immediately.
It's not just going out and losing 40-3 against the Cowboys on the first Sunday night game anymore.
Sure.
It's losing to teams that it's losing to the Minnesota Vikings that are starting Sam Darnold for the first time, that don't have a real running back. It's losing to teams that you should beat or be competitive with and not get rolled on. Giants fans, I'm walking in the street, taking my nice afternoon depression walk, trying to get some touch grass and clear air. It didn't help, by the way. I was angrier when I got back. Somehow I got my vitamin D. I had a good lather. I got my beers. It was awful.
You went out to get for your depression walk, but you went to buy beers. That's what you went on the walk for.
That's where I got the beers and I got got my ramen. It was awful, but all around I'm seeing these Giants fans, and they're another year of this, and I'm seeing their interactions. Just the sad head nod. I'm seeing kids walking around in Giants shirts, just optimistic and happy in Eli Manning t-shirt jerseys. They don't really know how depressed their parents are. They don't really know that their uncle is just punched through a TV. But this team is crushing the life force of this area.
Do me a favor. The next time you are walking the streets of New Jersey on your depression walk to buy 12 packs of beer, then walk back home with, please take a photo or a video for me. I have to see that. We have to cover that here on this show.
I actually told myself, you've been walking for 15 minutes and you've been scowling the whole time. Everyone.
Football does not make you happier. Football is bad for you.
It was unhealthy, and I'm trying to get a little bit healthier. And
so you had the ramen and the hot pockets, and then walk, and then you buying all the beers on a Monday. It's just bad times at the El Royale.
Yeah.
Last topic, and then I'll let you go. I know you have a day. These are the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. If you're listening on podcasts, I'll read them to you. It goes 10-1. Kyler, Jalen, Lamar, Justin Herbert, Goff, Tua, Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, and Dak Prescott, who makes $60 million a year. Everybody else makes at least 46.1. How many of these quarterbacks would you pay this money to?
1, 2. Probably 5. Probably 5.
I got 3.
I think I would pay Lamar. I'd pay Herbert. I'd pay Burrow. I might pay Goff. And I think I'd pay Dak.
I'm not paying Dak. I'm not paying Trevor Lawrence. I'm not paying Tua. I'm not paying Goff. I'm not paying Lamar. I'm not paying Jalen. I'm not paying Kyler. So I think that's Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. I think that's who I'm paying.
Yeah, that's a tough That it's just a bunch of B+ to B- quarterbacks. And if you want to win a Super Bowl, you need an A quarterback. You need an A quarterback or an A+ defense.
And I'm not even faulting these teams, Tor, because this is the price of doing business, and it's the haves and have-nots when it comes to quarterbacks. But Trevor Lawrence is not worth $55 million a year. I don't care what the market says. I don't care that he's worth that much to the Jacksonville Jaguars. To Shootsters, he's if you would like to come here and play for league minimum, you can compete for a starting job. But I've watched him play enough football where I know I cannot devote that much of my cap to Trevor Lawrence and win a Super Bowl. I just know that.
Yeah, he needs to beat Tua when Tua isn't playing well in the first half.
And what happened to Kyler Palooza, by the way? This was supposed to be his year. This is his Cordell Stewart / year. What the fuck happened?
I don't know. He looks shorter than I've ever seen him versus Buffalo. I genuinely, and I loved watching him. He's scrambled, like he still has sweet feet, and he still is nice and elusive. He almost did like a fake slide where he looked like he didn't even do anything with his lower body. He just did like a subtle ball gesture, and then he went for another 15 yards. Holy shit. Oh my God. He's just small. And Bryce Young it looks like he's 120
Bryce
pounds.
Young looks like he's 15 to 20 pounds and 2 inches shorter than Kyler Murray. Like he looks like an infant playing.
He took a sack versus the Saints and his body flew 5 yards. It slid on the turf like skipping a stone. Worst trade in NFL history.
What happened to Dave Canales? Like that was the guy he's the one that works with quarterbacks. He's the one they look worse. The defense looks worse. They just lost their best player on defense out for the season.
I'll say this. I don't care if you worked with quarterbacks before. I don't want you on my team. Get off my effing team. I want you to be in an Applebee's commercial acting your ass off with your 40-inch python biceps.
How amazing.
That's what I want.
How I've never wanted to eat at Applebee's in my life. And now that Dan Campbell is a spokesperson, he wants you to cover their mouth and you're ordering their shitty food. I want to go there tonight for supper.
I want Mike Tomlin, who looks like he can put three plates on each side of the bench and rep it out with the smooth buzz up top.
Bro, is it me or did Todd Bowles gain like 30 pounds this offseason? He was wearing a titty shirt. I couldn't fucking believe it. I always thought that dude was in decent shape. Did you see the titty shirt? I should have found a picture. All right, let me Google Todd Bowles titty shirt and see what comes up. I always thought he was in decent shape. He looked fat as hell coming off the fucking going over the. By the way, if you're a head coach in this league and you wear a backwards hat, you deserve to fucking lose. And I hope Dan Quinn hears this. Clip it, send it to him. Give him the link. Send him the link. Turn your fucking hat around. You're the head coach. I couldn't believe it, Tor. I was like, okay, practice is one thing, not during a game, Dan Quinn.
I think if you're the DC, you could pull that off. You can be in the booth with your hat backwards. You're not really on the field. You're just up there vibing out, scheming up Micah Parsons to go murder a quarterback. Whereas if you're on the field, the leader of men, flip it around for me, pal. Act like you've been there before. Oh, you have, and you created the worst stretch of years of my life. Thanks, Dan Quinn. Fucking asshole. I hate that dude.
You haven't earned the right to wear a backwards hat. If fucking Belichick or Andy Reid would have come out there rocking it, I'm fine with that. Looking like a catcher.
I'm sick of the Belichick babyface tour also going on McAfee, and I'm sick of it.
You mean Slurpa-palooza with Brady and Belichick going back with cute Instagram videos for each other left and right?
They can fuck off. Sick of them. Brady and it was Al Michaels was saying, I actually thought Brady and Burkhardt were nice and relaxing. They had good chemistry. Brady was stepping on his tongue the entire time. I think the producers were shutting his mic off before the play, as they should have.
I hate to give Florio credit, but he's like, why wasn't Brady calling the UFL championship game? Like, it's a property of your network. It'll get some eyes on it, get him some reps. It means when you go, and everybody, who's the guy that looks like Dexter with the comb over? The tight end, Greg Olsen.
Everybody, I take high pitch Olsen.
But they were slurping him. He didn't start in the one hole. He didn't start at the top of the lineup.
Now, Drew Brees, I know if I got a second shot at broadcasting, I'd do great. Fuck you, Drew Brees, also.
Oh, my God.
I don't know where this turned.
I think it turned somewhere where you were walking to the fucking come and go to get Schlitz malt liquor and fucking blew yourself up.
I want Drew Brees doing D-rate gambling ads. That's what I think you should do on a platform I've never even heard of before.
I want to go down. I want to go fucking give Drew Brees 50 cents like a la Uncle Buck and say, here's 50 cents. Go downtown and get a rat to gnaw that thing off your face. That would be my move. I bumped into him. Oh, boy. It's a lot of fun. All right, hit the like button and consider going over to iTunes and Spotify and clicking subscribe. Leave a 5-star review. Tell a friend. We go live every Monday and Thursday and sometimes in between. Sean Salisbury Tor. Next time we're on, he'll be joining us on Thursday, right before a monster Thursday night game. Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins early in the season. That could be 40-48. I can't wait.
Fired up for it. I'm sure we'll both have a question prepared for Salisbury as well.
Well, I like to make sure that he has plenty of time to say what he needs to say. He needs no ramping up time. Zip zero. Oh boy. All right, Tor, go long.
Hey, what do you got?
Both types of sports.
Yeah, what's it do? Go long. Real long.